Good evening, Postal family. How's everybody doing? My name is Syed. Welcome back to the channel. What's going on this Monday evening? Decent Monday today. Not too bad. Not too light. Right in the middle where we like it. And we had a big thunderstorm to cool things off in the 80s. So that was a blessing in disguise. So good blessing. Anyway, what I'm talking about today's video is 3 out of the 4 NALC presidential candidates had a Zoom call last night with, I believe, Next Gen carriers. So to credit to them, they had a lot of good questions by the three. I can't say why James Henry didn't attend. Have no idea. He does his own thing, but that's what I'm talking about, the Zoom call and what kind of questions each of them got. Nicole, Lou, Dress, and Mike Cariff. So that's my topic today. First, if you're new to the channel, my name is Syed. Postal content is what I do love to do. Thanks everybody for all the support. Keep giving me the thumbs up. Smash that hype button. Thanks for all you do, guys. Communication. Can't say enough. Always keep it coming. Questions, whatever you have, suggestions. What's going on in your stations in the NALC world all over. There's really not much going on other than waiting for this ballots to come out so we can get a new president in there and this going to arbitration. I don't know how long it will take. God help us always. So everything I say on here is from my views, my research. I don't speak on behalf of USPS Post Office in any of my videos. So let's get to the Zoom call, the 3 candidates. NALC presidential candidates face carriers. If you're a city letter carrier, there's a very good chance you are watching the NALC presidential election closer than ever before. And last night, 3 of the candidates stepped directly in front of the carriers during Next Generation Carriers Presidential Roundtable. Nicole Ryan, Mike Cariff, Lou Dress. They were questioned about some of the biggest issues facing letter carriers right now. What are those issues? Pay, Table 2, grievances, route inspections, management accountability, contract negotiations, and perhaps the biggest question of all, should the NALC continue doing business the way it has been doing business, or is it time for a major change? The discussion reportedly went for roughly 3 hours, followed by an extended after-dark conversation involving Ryan and Dress. So today we're going to break down the biggest issues surrounding these candidates, what each one is bringing to the election, and most importantly, which candidates appears to be connecting with the concerns of today's letter carriers. Let's get into it, guys. Number 1, the contract. Let's start with what is probably the biggest issue facing every single carrier right now. Well, the city side, every means you're including the rural too. The next NALC contract, because when you talk about the NALC presidency, you're not just talking about a title. You're talking about the person who is going to inherit one of the most important labor fights in the union's history. And this is where the candidates start to separate. Mike Cariff. Cariff's campaign has been built heavily around the idea that the union needs to become more aggressive. His argument is essentially getting language into a contract doesn't mean much if management can violate that language and then drag the grievance process out for years. Very good point that is. And that brings us to one of the biggest issues in this election, the grievance backlog. Number 2, the 50,000 grievance problem. We're talking about an enormous number of unresolved grievances. And this has become one of Mike Cariff's biggest campaign issues. His position is that the problem isn't simply that there are too many grievances. The deeper problem is whether management has enough incentive to follow the contract in the first place. Say you think about it, if management violates the contract, the carrier files a grievance. The grievance takes years, eventually the union wins. But the consequences to management is minimal. What incentive does management have to change? That's where Cariff's argument becomes powerful. He has talked about stronger remedies and making violations actually cost management something. That is very good point indeed, man, because Any grievance management can keep saying, we don't have time, we don't have time. It keeps dragging to years. I've seen this in person, actually, so something definitely needs to be done about that. In other words, don't just win grievances, change management's behavior. That's a very different philosophy from simply telling carriers file a grievance. Number 3, Nicole Ryan, experience versus change. Then you have Nicole Ryan. Ryan represents something very different in the election. She brings national office experience. She understands the structure of the NALC. She has experience dealing with legislation, national politics, and the machinery of the union. That's a legitimate argument, because whoever becomes president isn't walking into an empty office. They're walking into an organization with thousands of branches, complicated constitutional rules, negotiations with USPS, congressional relationships, and a massive grievance system. Ryan's strongest argument is basically experience matters. If you're taking over or during a contract fight, do you really want someone learning how the national office works after they become president? Or do you want somebody who already understands the system? Good point she's throwing at us. But here's the problem Ryan has to overcome, and this is a big one. She's associated with the existing national leadership structure. So younger and dissatisfied carriers can ask, if the current system isn't working, why should we vote for someone connected to that system? Very, very, very good point indeed. That's the challenge for Ryan. Her experience is her greatest strength. But to some carriers, the same experience can be viewed as continuity instead of change. Then we get to number 4, Lou Drass. Then there's Lou Drass. Drass brings something different again, long-term NALC experience and institutional knowledge. And that's important because this election isn't simply about who can give the best speech. It's about who understands how this organization actually works. Drass has spent years inside the NALC structure. That gives him an argument that is different from Carif's. Carif's message is heavily focused on we need to change the way we're fighting. Drass can make the argument, I understand the system, I understand the problems and how to navigate the organization. And there's another interesting detail. Drass had already appeared with next generation carriers before the presidential roundtable, and the conversation reportedly went much longer than originally planned. So he has been making a significant effort to reach the audience. Table 2, number 5. Now let's talk about the issue that younger carriers probably care about more than almost anything else. Table 2. Pay Table 2. For years, newer carriers have looked at Table 1 and Table 2 and asked, why am I doing essentially the same job for less money? Whoever's brightest idea this was in 2013 needs to each come to face the camera and answer this thing. Why this thing was put together. That's not just a paycheck issue, it's a morale issue, it's a recruitment issue, and it's a retention issue. If USPS wants to recruit the next generation of letter carriers, those employees have to believe there is a future here. That's why eliminating the two-tier system has become such a major part of reform movement inside NALC. Carif has strongly aligned himself with the idea that the two-tier system needs to end. And that message is extremely powerful with younger carriers. Because when you're a newer carrier looking at someone doing the same job, making substantially more money, it's very difficult to explain why that is fair. Ryan and Drass also have to address that concern, but again, Ryan faces the bigger political question. What will actually change under her leadership? Number 6, higher pay and locality pay. And this brings us to another major issue. If USPS pay competitive enough? Is USPS pay competitive enough? At the recent NALC convention, delegates backed a proposal supporting locality pay for carriers working in high-cost areas. And that is a huge development. Because imagine being a carrier in an extremely expensive city. Your paycheck may look decent on paper, but housing, transportation, food, and everything else cost dramatically more. So the question becomes, should a carrier's pay reflect the cost of living where they actually work? That's an issue the next NALC president is going to have to deal with. And it connects directly to the broader demand from reform-minded carriers. Higher wages, better progression, and Table 2. Make USPS a place where younger workers actually want to build a career. Good stuff. Number 7, member control. Now here's where the election gets really interesting. It's not just about money, it's about who controls the union. Should members have more say over major contracts? Should members have greater access to bargaining information? Should the president have to provide more transparency? These questions become much more important after the controversy surrounding the previous contract negotiations. All closed door behind not a single word shared by Renfro, nothing. That's all got to change. It's got to, every step of the way got to be transparent to the carriers, to the membership who pay the dues to run the NALC in the first place. The reform movement is essentially saying this is our contract, we should have more say in what happens to it. That's a very difficult argument to dismiss because ultimately the people working at the routes are the ones living with the consequences. Number 8 is transparency. We're just talking about. Let's talk about transparency because this might be one of the biggest lessons from the last contract fight. Carriers don't want to hear "trust us." They want to know what's happening, what's being processed, what are we fighting for, what did USPS offer, what did NALC reject, and most importantly, why. The reform movement has pushed hard for more transparency and more member involvement. Ryan's challenge is convincing carriers that national leadership can provide the transparency while still maintaining the confidentiality sometimes necessary during negotiations. Drass has his own institutional argument, and Caref's position fits naturally into the reform message. Carriers need to have more information and more control. Number 9 is route inspections and management. Now let's bring this back down to the street because none of this matters if your route is impossible. Route inspections, route adjustments, overtime, workload, management pressure. These are the issues carriers deal with every single day. And the question for the next president is, how aggressively will NALC fight when management violates the contract? This is another area where Caref's background gives him a strong argument. His campaign has emphasized enforcement. The idea is simple. A contract isn't protection if you can't enforce it. Ryan's advantage is her national experience and knowledge of the larger organization. Drass's advantage is his institutional knowledge. But the carrier on the street isn't necessarily asking who knows the Constitution best. They're asking who's going to have my back when management starts violating the contract. That may be one of the most important questions in this election. Number 10, who is really representing the next generation? And now we get to the heart of this entire election, the next generation of letter carriers. Because the people entering USPS today are not necessarily thinking the same way carriers did 20 or 30 years ago. They want better pay, faster progression, a sustainable workload, respect, a voice in the union, and transparency. They want to know that if they spend 20 or 30 years carrying mail, they'll actually be able to build a decent life. That's why this presidential election could be different. Caref's message, fight harder. Ryan's message is experience matters. Drass' message is institutional knowledge matters. Now carriers have to decide which one do we believe. James Henry fits in there too. He's the current vice president. So, but my big takeaway. So after looking at the major issues surrounding this race, here's the biggest takeaway. I don't think this election is really about three personalities. It's about three different visions for the NALC. Nicole Ryan's stability and experience. She's telling carriers that she understands the national union and can take the reins immediately. Mike Cariff, aggressive reform and enforcement. He's telling carriers that the union has to stop allowing management to violate the contract without meaningful consequences. Lou Drass, experience and institutional knowledge. He's telling carriers that he understands the organization from the inside and knows how the machinery works. That's what makes this election so interesting. Number 12, final. So now I want to hear from you guys. You all know what to do. After watching the next generation carriers discussions, which candidate do you think actually understands what letter carriers are dealing with? Nicole Ryan, Mike Cariff, Lou Drass, I'm going to throw in there James Henry. And don't just tell me who you're supporting. Tell me why. Y'all know what to do. Hit up the comments, what y'all think. And just wanted to bring share this Zoom call that they had last night. Again, I can't say why James Henry wasn't there. His personal reasons. I'm not gonna come up with things that could have happened. It's just his personal decision, and nothing to it. We move on. You know, he's a candidate right there too. So that's that. Pretty much good information coming from all three of these candidates. Lou Drass and Nicole Ryan already have experience. Lou Drass has spent some time as the vice president. Nicole Ryan comes from the corporate side. Cariff, he's trying to get in. He's got different ideas. And James Henry is the current vice president. So a lot of work to do for the carriers selecting the next president. Make sure we get the right person in there for the job, and who can take care of us going on the future. The stuff we're dealing with, on the top, of course, is the pay, the two tables into one we want to make. We want to make the progression much more sooner than it is right now, 13 years. And we want a lot of transparency in any negotiations, any and all negotiations. We need to know what's being said, what's being rejected, what's being offered by USPS, all that good stuff. So, no. The time is coming, September 28th, I believe, in a month and a half, a month and a week, something like that. They will mail out the ballots, and then the good stuff begins. Vote for the best person, and hopefully we can go from there. As far as the arbitration news, still nothing. Mr. Renfro has left us hanging. No news. A lot of you were saying in the messages it doesn't take that long to schedule arbitration, so we don't know what he's doing, what his plan is. Just like always, he takes his time. Last year, if you guys remember, it was 700 days. God forbid, we don't want that this time around. So anyway, that's it on this one, guys. Some very good stuff all three of these candidates shared, and I just wanted to share this Zoom call, what had taken place. So until next time, that's it. Take care of yourself, guys. MailmanSyed out.